Good morning. My name is John Dozel. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to all of you. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you would like to learn more about this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for our coffee hour. For the listening enjoyment of all, we ask you at this time to please turn off all cell phones. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk. These are the announcements for this morning. If you are able to go and support Reverend Dan this week, he will be speaking at the UU South Bend congregation on Thursday evening, November 20th at 6 p.m. There is a potluck dinner after the service. He will be speaking at the annual Transgender Day of Remembrance service. Please make sure everyone is aware that we will have a concert-style security for the Trans Day of Remembrance event on November 20th at 6 p.m., which includes a clear bag policy and wanding at the entrance. An updated flyer is posted by the restrooms. We are looking for about 8 readers to participate in the service. This involves saying a prayer in 4 voices, as well as reading the names of those who have passed this year. If you have members of your organization that would like to volunteer as a reader, please let Dr. Louise know as soon as possible. Her email is office@firstunitarian.us. Again, that's office@firstunitarian.us, or see an updated flyer. Is that everything, Steve, on that one? Okay, good. I want to make sure we got that right. All right, please mark Sunday, November 30th on your calendar at 3 p.m. here in the gathering place. Don Wycliffe will be having a book signing reception. Invite your friends and relatives to be part of this celebration. We have been blessed to have Don share several chapters of his book, Before the Byline, A Journalism Roots, during Sunday services over the past several months. Also, we are calling for volunteers to decorate the worship area and some in the foyer and the gathering place as well. We are looking to do this before November 30th. Please contact Steve Kripe or Chuck Bauer or any member of the worship committee if you are able to help out with this activity. See Pam Wycliffe if you are willing to be in our Christmas pageant December 7th. Many of you will be called to participate. I think that's it. All right, thank you.
Our chalice lighting this morning includes a passage by Wendell Berry. We are guided on our journey by a power greater than ourselves, but the steps we take must be our own. And we must understand that the world cannot be discovered by a journey of miles, only by a spiritual journey by which we arrive at the ground at our feet and learn to be at home. Please join me in speaking our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. You children may go to RE now, while we join together in singing hymn 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Would you stand if you're willing and able, and let's sing. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our voices in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. Thank you.
Shortly, we will be taking up our morning offering, and our loose offering today will be shared with the Boys and Girls Club of Elkhart County. In this season of Thanksgiving, may we give generously and receive graciously. Just want to make it easier to get to the microphone. Now is the time in our service when we share with each other what is on our hearts, joys and sorrows, anniversaries, concerns, celebrations, gratitudes. If you'd like to share something, please come to the front, speak into the microphone, and tell us your name so we may know you better. Choose a stone or shell from the basket and drop it in the water as you share what you would like. You may also do this in silence. And please know that once the personal sharings begin, it will not be recorded later for Facebook. I light this first candle to shed light on all our joys and diminish the shadows of our sorrows.
So the last time, I think that I was up here, my wife, Talasha, was speaking, and a family and I, we were all sang along with Talasha, I think it was last fall, just to kind of help support that. But as Janelle said, you only get me today, so I'm sorry about that for your sake. But I do have, yes, as Janelle mentioned, some people to keep me honest. And I also want to thank Janelle for asking me to do this time of kind of personal reflection, to share how someone goes from being a pastor for 20 years to being a maintenance man. But I think what she's really asking me to do is to talk more about how does a person go from pastoring to plunging toilets without feeling like it was some kind of midlife career suicide or some kind of spiritual crisis of faith. The short answer to all that is that I'm a Mennonite, and I have learned that Mennonites take the whole concept of servant leadership way too far to a toxic end, to the point where, as a pastor, I expected to plunge toilets. So it really wasn't that big of a shift to become a maintenance man in the end. So there we go. That's my story. No, you deserve a better answer than that, so I'll try to get into it here. So let's start at my beginning. Yes, long answer. Here we go. So Daniel is not my first given name. I'm the oldest son of a dairy farmer, and of farmers going back more generations than I can count. So on the day I was born, it was a cold day in December in western Missouri, and when my mom said it was time to head to the hospital, my dad, kind of freaked out and got ready to make sure that in whatever the weather would be, they could make the hour-long drive from the farm up to Kansas City to the hospital. Now, to be ready for whatever mess that may come along, my dad didn't put on his typical, good going-to-town jeans. He went one step down in the continuum of wardrobe choices that he could have had and put on his good overalls. So, imagine the impression the nurses get when this pregnant woman is ushered into the hospital with a guy in his work coat and bib overalls and seed corn hat complete with the ear flaps pulled down. Now, from what I remember, the delivery went fine. But now my parents had this new son to name. Now, through all of this, my dad knew full well how he appeared to the big city nurses. And he is a slight jokester, so he decided to have a little fun with it. So there he is, overalls and 70s big hair with the hat crease around the top of his hair. And when the nurses ask, "What are you going to name this firstborn son of yours?" Without missing a beat and in all seriousness, "Farmer." The next morning, my grandparents show up and look at the announcement board on the maternity ward, and sure enough, they assume that Farmer Yoder must be their new grandson. Now, this did get all cleared up before it got all the way to my birth certificate, so that's good. However, this identity of farmer is something that I haven't been able to get away from. So as I said, I grew up on a dairy farm. My dad and my uncle were in partnership together with that. I'm the oldest with 3 younger sisters. My dad's parents lived 1 mile to the west, my mom's parents lived 1 mile to the east. The small Mennonite church I grew up in was a mile around the corner. The cemetery full of ancestors and people whose stories I only knew was just down the road in view of the house. So I was fortunate to grow up close to so much family and so much personal family history as well. I went then, as you heard, to Heston College and Tabor Colleges in central Kansas and graduated with a degree in youth ministry. And also met Talasha, and we got married right out of college. So I then went through the Mennonite processes of looking for a church to pastor, and that's how we ended up here in Elkhart County. I was pastor at First Mennonite Church in Middlebury for about 4.5 years. And then in 2009, Talasha and I both started pastoring at College Mennonite Church in Goshen. And I then ended my time pastoring there at College Mennonite about 2 years ago, and I've been working at Bethany Christian Schools. They were in the process of expanding, having a new elementary, having more space to manage, so they needed more people in maintenance. So my title, Facilities Generalist. If you've ever known anybody who specializes in anything, I'm the opposite of that. And I really like it, I do. So as I've reflected on this transition for me, from being a pastor to being a maintenance man, trying to figure out, like, what do I glean from that I can share with you today? Some things that have held true and consistent for me while I have changed how I spend my time during my work hours of the day. So the first gleaning is to know your name. My name that I did eventually get on my birth certificate, Daniel, is Hebrew in origin, meaning God is my judge. As a child, it was this great reminder to be careful about my actions because God is watching. As an adolescent and a young adult, it gave me permission to see the world differently from my parents because God is my judge, not my parents. That part may have backfired on them, I don't know. That's another conversation. But then I also have this name, Farmer Yoder, this kind of lighthearted moment that also was grounded in reality for me. Being a farmer, doing the work of caring for a place so that it in turn cares for you. So how does that translate into pastoring? Well, Daniel gave me kind of the ability to speak freely, to speak prophetically when possible, because God is my judge, not the people dropping money in the offering plate. But then there's also the farmer side, the caring, the shepherding, the nurturing part of that. But also in farming, you have to play the long game. And in youth ministry, sometimes it's about the short game. How many people show up? Who all's there? You know, all of those kind of questions. Those were some temptations. But I tried to be more concerned about talking about Jesus and wrestling with the Bible with youth and adolescents and doing activities that would set them up for faith in their 30s more than momentary fun. The farmer side also pushed me into some creation care ministries. I had a little youth ministry gig thing called Casting Hope for a while, which was basically a way of providing employment to youth while doing curbside food scrap pickup for people in Goshen that we would then compost and use worms and then sell the castings, and it kind of became this self-sustaining thing for a while. And it was a lot of fun. It was stinky, it was messy, and it was fun. And that transitions well into being a farmer as a maintenance man. Now at Bethany, we have gardens and try to get students out into them, which means cafeteria, there's compost. And so I also then take care of that there now as well. But there's also the playing of the long game as I see it in my role within maintenance, of keeping a place safe and looking good so that all these young humans that are around can learn skills of functioning in a world that we have to share with people who are not like us. And when the thought comes to me sometimes of, I'm just a maintenance man, the Daniel side reminds me that that's someone else's judgment on me. based on their obsession with hierarchy. I've been in enough nonprofit settings to know that it is institutionally beneficial for all employees to keep the bottom line at top of mind. So I realized making decisions the day-to-day of, well, it's easier for her to buy this expensive part versus it's actually better if I spend a little time and fix it, do have institutional implications. So that's the first gleaning, know your name. Second, choose community over career. So I tended to approach pastoring with a couple big questions in mind. First being, what is best for the church now? For me, this looked like in youth ministry, realizing that every grouping of youth each year, as they graduate and new ones come in and cycle through, it's a different group every year. So I didn't take a cookie cutter approach. That just seemed too cheap, too easy. After I developed 4 years of stuff, just repeat it. No. But also in the broader context of congregation at College Mennonite, the church had started and is continuing down a long, slow work of shifting its congregational identity. It's gone from being an all-white European American congregation full of college graduates, yes, but also college professors, to now having a very significant number of recent immigrants from Latin America. And that has changed who we are and what we do as a group and as a community. So in the second part of that question is not just what is best for the church now, but which of my gifts are needed here and now in the moment. For a while in that transition, it was administrative gifts of mine to help see processes that others had known for a long time, come in with fresh eyes and offer questions. I also love planning events and activities and trips and retreats for youth. And that also then developed into doing some of that for the congregation as well, into some weekend long retreats, which were always a lot of fun to do. And also the brainstorming and experimenting. That's just the creativity side of that has always been a joy for me. It's really, I think in many ways, what I enjoyed about youth ministry, because as a professor of mine said once, youth ministry in some ways is kind of like the research and development wing of the church. Just don't take that too far to think that we're using students as guinea pigs. That's not how, don't go that far down that analogy, please. But for College Mennonite, on this long, slow process of shifting identity, I saw that we were kind of getting to a tipping point as a congregation of where the gifts and skills that were needed in the congregation were ones that I did not or could not possess. I knew a little bit of Spanish. I've traveled in several Latin American countries, but speaking fluent Spanish and being culturally competent to the differences between people from Venezuela and Mexico and Puerto Rico, those are skills that I don't have. The youth group is a very multicultural setting, and it needs multicultural leadership. And I, being part of the church, chose that identity for College Mennonite and worked toward it to the point where I could no longer keep it going. And I am happy that the church is at that place of having a multicultural youth group, an experience that my own children now get to enjoy. So I'm still a member at College Mennonite. That was kind of the tricky part of this whole transition, is how do I step back from pastoring while Talasha, my spouse, continues on as a pastor. I'm not quite sure how we did it, but it's working. And I've kind of struggled with how to say this without sounding too much like I'm a martyr, and I really haven't found a good way of saying it. So just kind of take that out of the equation, please. But I realized I kind of got to the point where my career could not hold back the community, could not hold the community hostage from what God was leading the church toward. So my commitment to the church remains, but my career had to shift, which leads me then to my third gleaning, an adaptable calling. So if you look up calling on the internet, you're going to get, it kind of showed me that calling and vocation and career kind of all get lumped into synonyms, but I want to pull them apart. because I think there's some nuance in between all of those words, as they work towards defining a meaningful life for us and meaningful work. So on one end of the continuum, you have a job. You need money, and it's kind of the thing you are willing to do whatever your desperation allows you to do to get a paycheck. As you move along the continuum, from job, you hit career. It's how cash comes in, how the money comes in, but the work is more fulfilling. You find a sense of ownership and fulfillment in your work. And continuing on the continuum to career. That's career. Vocation, from career to vocation. When the skills that give you the most joy to put into practice can become the thing that provides you a living wage. Where what you would love to do is something you can get paid for. And then moving on beyond vocation, we get to calling. Your way of being in the world when you are fully yourself, feel most who you are. So maybe to put some Christian verbiage onto calling, I might say it this way. Your calling is to be a co-creator with God in the place and the time you find yourself living, in the place and time you find yourself, by living in the way of Jesus, so that a beautiful world of divine love is resonating in the bones of the people around you. Career, vocation, calling kind of build on each other. The Bible tells several ways a story of Jesus calling disciples, some of whom were fishermen. And Jesus invited them to follow him and to bring their talents and their skills along with them. Jesus didn't say, follow me and forget all that you know, just follow me. Jesus said, follow me and fish for people. In other words, keep the hard-earned and natural skills and tendencies that you have that benefit other people and use them. Just start using them with a different goal or a different intent in mind. Jesus invited them to keep their way of being as Jewish fishermen, but to do it in a different way. Change their state of doing. Keep their state of being. When I was 14, I had several experiences that kind of together became an anchoring point in life for me. So choosing to be baptized was one of those, having a clear sense of call to ministry at that point, and some other things went along with that being a key phase of life for me. And that sense of direction then continued on into college, when that call to ministry led me to study youth ministry. And over the years, I've had other opportunities to reflect on and clarify my call to ministry. But what has felt consistent and true for me in all of that is that my calling never felt like it had a specific place or location tied to it. It never felt as simple as being called to congregational ministry. So, what is my calling? What do I sense that to be for myself? For me, it has always felt like my call is to set people up to encounter God. So, for 20 years in the church, that meant asking questions of youth regularly. Where did you see God this week or today? Keeping that front of mind, helping them to reflect on the world around them and where they may see God. For bigger experiences, it was finding key ways of focusing that whole time and attention to give encounters of the divine. In other words, trying to lead them to water, but drinking, communion, or jumping in the water, baptism, that's their choice. As a maintenance man, that sense of call still continues with me. First, by being in an institution that is geared toward faith formation in some way, but then also making a space, a place, conducive to education, a place that's easy for teachers and staff and students to learn and grow together and realize the unique reflections of God that they are to and with each other. Sometimes I can do this directly in interactions in the hallway and in the cafeteria with students, but most of the time it's indirectly when I'm hiding out in the attic working on HVAC or installing a new toilet. For me, to serve and support students and teachers, a facility and an institution that assists young humans in finding their God-given talents and abilities and calling in life is a deep joy for me. And to me, there are many, many times where that feels just as important as pastoring and trying and finding ways to meet the spiritual needs and spiritual crises of others. So, how do you go from being a pastor to being a maintenance man? Well, I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. But know your name and where you come from. Join communities that you can trust deeply, who will sacrifice for you and that you are willing to sacrifice for. And trust that your calling, the essence of who you are, goes with you no matter how numbers get written on your paycheck. In my time of figuring out how to discern this time of transition, a phrase kept ringing true for me and for Talasha as we both had to discern all this. But to enter life, enter situations, caring deeply and holding loosely. As I was growing up in a Christian context in the 90s, it was really hard to get away from evangelical Christian influences of the time. So I remember being really concerned that I would not find the one true, only will of God for my life as an adolescent. And then I got to college, and I was introduced to a lot of different ideas. And one quote specifically from Frederick Buechner has stuck with me ever since then. It took all the pressure off from finding the one will of God for me, but also helped me make sense of kind of the holistic way that God has put the world together. So I'll end with this for us this morning. The place God calls you is the place where your deepest joy and the world's deepest need meet. Amen.
Thank you, Daniel. We have time for just a few questions or responses. I'll just say that when my dad left the ministry to become a clinical social worker, he had a series of part-time jobs to bring in some money while he was in school. And one of them was being the school janitor for about 3 months. And since it was very difficult to describe to people what a director of Christian education was and did, it was wonderful to say, my dad's a janitor.
As someone who's had many different jobs so far in my life, I can attest to the finding where my skills and my passion of being of service to others plays its role in finding the joy and purpose of each individual career path that leads to the vocation. And yeah, it's a difficult path and not everybody finds it, and we often lose our way. So congrats and welcome.
Yes.
To reflect on what you just said, I've worked my way through college and hospitals and nursing homes and doing everything from emptying bedpans to helping people clean themselves up after they've got done eating. And there is a spiritual joy in doing the simplest of those things for people. And when I look back on it, those were some of my happiest days, just helping people going in, and even with Alzheimer's patients who were very confused as to who I was when I walked in the room. But I saw a bright smile on their face and they said, oh, it's Cousin John or whatever. And even though the nurses told us we were to keep them focused in reality, I always just went along with it and just said, Yep, and they, again, continue that joy they had in their hearts for that moment in time. And again, I just think that that's how we should all live our lives, is just bring that joy to people.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Thanks for breaking the rules in a joyful way.
You know, I think sometimes we focus so much in our society and life on money and how am I going to pay the rent, you know. It makes me wonder, if we didn't have to worry about that, what would people do with their time if there was an expectation that everyone's going to work doing something, but money was kind of out of the picture? What would people do?
Sorry for making walking. Feels because my question's a little silly too. Does anyone call you farmer, or have you ever been called farmer by anyone?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've told the story several places. Yes, youth would sometimes make fun of me for it, or in good jokingly ways. No one's officially called me that. And I mean, yes, the story is substantiated from my parents and others, but yeah, it's been more of just a rooting story for me over the years. So yeah. So I mean, if you want to call me that next time, yeah, that's okay.
There are a lot of worse things to be called.
There
I
are many
imagine.
worse things. Yes.
Well, with that, let us go to our final hymn, which is in your order of service.
If you're willing and able, let's please stand and we'll sing the last hymn.
Please join me in the extinguishing of the chalice, which is written in your order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of community, the light of truth, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And after Daniel gives the benediction, you are welcome to leave quietly if you wish, or remain and hear Marva's marvelous music.
So I was curious about what kind of benediction I should give. So I realized that sometimes times of crisis give us clarity on what to share to people. So I went back to what I said over Zoom, I don't know how many times, with youth as we were gathered in virtual spaces during a time of crisis during COVID. So it has been, a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you for the invitation and this gracious place. So I leave you with these words that the Apostle Paul told to his friends in the city of Philippi, which is in modern-day northern Greece. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things, and the God of peace will be with you.